So, Pluto, remember that guy? Used to be part of the solar system gang, now it's just a tiny, distant dwarf planet. It kind of faded into the background, until now. Guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kaku are talking about it again, and they're saying some pretty wild stuff. They're saying Pluto might be on a collision course with Neptune. I know it sounds crazy, right? But they're seriously worried that Pluto could crash into Neptune, like a huge, planetary smash-up. How could that even happen? And if it did, what would it even look like? Are they just seeing things, or is something actually going down out there? Turns out, Pluto's path gets super close to Neptune. Tyson and Kaku are waving red flags. If Pluto's orbit changes even a little, boom, could be planet Armageddon. Could Earth get caught in the crossfire? How could something like this even happen in the first place? Let's get into what this Pluto-Neptune thing is all about. Even after Pluto got demoted, it was still pretty interesting. But now these top scientists are saying its orbit is way too close to Neptune's, so people are getting nervous. Tyson and Kaku, these famous science guys, are saying there's a real space problem brewing. They think this isn't just a close call, but a real threat to Earth. Okay, but how could this thing play out? Pluto's trip around the sun is weird. Most planets go around in a circle, but it takes Pluto about 248 Earth years to do one lap. We only found it in 1930, so it hasn't even finished one trip yet. And get this, its path is all stretched out and tilted, not like the other planets. It's tilted about 17 degrees. Here's the odd part, for about 20 years every lap, Pluto gets closer to the sun than Neptune. It dips inside Neptune's orbit for a couple of decades. So why haven't they crashed yet? It's because of this gravity dance the planets are doing. When Pluto was new on the scene, astronomers tried to figure out how it moved. Most planets are on a flat plane, but Pluto goes its own way, with a big tilt and a weird path that cuts into Neptune's space. So how does it not crash? Cosmic mechanics. There's this thing called the three-body problem. That's when scientists try to figure out how three big space things, Pluto, Neptune, and the Sun, pull on each other with gravity. It's like a hard dance where everyone's pulling each other around. For Pluto, it's like why it hasn't smashed into Neptune. Back in the 80s, scientists used some computer programs and found something cool. Pluto's orbit has got some built-in defenses to keep it stable. But even that doesn't make it completely stable in the long run. A tiny thing could change Pluto's location or speed, and it could end up in a totally different place hundreds/thousands of years later. But even with this, Pluto's orbit has been pretty chill for forever. It's kinda like someone on a tightrope, but they are being okay. These new tools have helped astronomers see how the big boys, Neptune, Jupiter, and Saturn, mess with Pluto's orbit. Pluto and Neptune work together. For every 2 laps Pluto does, Neptune does 3. This gets Pluto out of the way. But Neptune isn't the only one helping out. Jupiter's so big that it can keep Pluto from bumping for eons. These patterns keep the rest of us from exploding as space things smash into each other. Pluto's a good example of how this space motion stuff stops crazy stuff from going down. Seeing how Pluto goes helps us understand this system always shifts. Pluto being weird shows a path looking wobbly can hold. Scientists shocked. This weird orbit is called orbital chaos, which means the planet's path can change if it doesn't start and accelerate correctly. When they did the computer programs, even if Pluto was pretty steady, it could have problems soon. But Pluto tells us one thing: even the planets that we thought we knew a good bit about always have more secrets to show. So what's with Tyson and Kaku saying about Neptune bumping into Pluto? Doesn't Pluto have things stopping it? Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson wanted Pluto to not be a planet to show that humans always change when discover stuff about space. He says Pluto means space will always be awesome. He worries that Pluto and Neptune may crash. Their orbit has been steady so far, so changes over time can make things very bad. Tyson doesn't think Pluto and Neptune will touch in a couple of days, but he's still saying to watch its location. Miokaka likes space, but always speaks about planets and how crazy they are. Both of them say we need to look at space/forces as they build our solar system. And also Pluto says that space can always change, new finds get new questions, and orbits say a story. That's where cosmic mechanics come into play. There's this thing called the three-body problem where scientists try to figure out how three big space things, like Pluto, Neptune, and the Sun, pull on each other with gravity. It's like trying to predict a complicated dance where everyone's pulling in different directions. For Pluto, there are some strange ideas, like asynchronous oscillation, orbital drift, and the VZK wobble. These help explain why Pluto hasn't crashed into Neptune yet. Asynchronous oscillation means that when Pluto's crossing Neptune's path, it's always at least 90 degrees away, like they're on opposite sides of a circle. This keeps them from hitting. Then there's orbital drift, which means Pluto's path goes up and down compared to the paths of the other planets. So even when it's close to Neptune, it's usually above or below, to avoid a crash. Finally, there's the VZK wobble, named after Zeldovich, Kai, and Kozai, which looks at how Pluto, Neptune, and the Sun pull on each other. These pulls make a rhythm, a balance that keeps Pluto's path steady, even if it looks strange. Space may look wild, but there's order under it all. These patterns keep Pluto on track and keep the solar system in order. This three-way interaction is key to understanding how orbits work and how they shift. It also helps scientists understand orbits not just for Pluto, but for other star systems, too. Back in the late 1980s, scientists did some computer tests and found something amazing. While Pluto's orbit has some safety features, it's still not totally stable. A tiny change in Pluto's position could make a big difference in where it ends up down the line. But even with this, Pluto's orbit has been pretty steady for a long time, as if it's on a tightrope, still managing to stay upright. Modern tools have also helped astronomers measure how Neptune, Jupiter, and Saturn affect Pluto's orbit. Pluto and Neptune have a kind of orbit relationship. For every 2 laps Pluto makes, Neptune makes 3. This ratio helps keep Pluto safe. But Neptune isn't alone here. Jupiter's gravity also helps a lot, and Saturn adds its own bit. Jupiter is so big that it can keep Pluto on a stable path for a long time. These big guys act like guardians, making sure Pluto stays safe. These weird but important patterns keep our solar system from turning into a mess. Without them, space would be full of crashes. Pluto is a good example of how figuring out how things move in space helps us avoid big disasters. Watching how Pluto moves helps us understand the system and its ups and downs. Pluto's strange orbit shows us that even a path that looks unstable can find balance because of gravity. It also shows why we should keep an eye on strange space stuff. They can teach us about how the universe works. Studying all this reminds us how strange and cool our universe is. Pluto's orbit is a perfect example of how weird things can get. Scientists have a name for this orbit: chaos. It means a planet's path can change a lot depending on where it starts and how fast it's going. Even tiny tweaks to its starting place can mean completely different outcomes for Pluto. That's where computers come in handy. They let scientists try out different starting points for Pluto. These tests have shown that even though Pluto has some stabilizers, it can still go off course if it starts out just a little differently. Yet, despite all this, Pluto has stayed on a pretty consistent track for billions of years. That's a sign that while it might wobble, it's locked into a bigger pattern. Trying to guess where Pluto will go way into the future is super hard because these systems can change with a small change. Even the best math can be wrong. They need the starting numbers to be just right. But even with this, Pluto has some good lessons. It shows that the solar system is always changing, our understanding is always growing, and even planets we think we know can surprise us. So, why are Tyson and Kaku warning us about a Pluto-Neptune crash? Don't we have enough safety in place? Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who everyone knows, has a special point of view on Pluto. He played a part in changing its status. He didn't do it to be mean to Pluto, but to show our better understanding of what makes something a planet. For him, Pluto shows how science grows. Tyson sees Pluto's weird orbit as a reminder of how much we still don't know. It keeps astronomy exciting. But when it comes to the idea of Pluto crashing into Neptune, Tyson's not so excited. He's concerned. He knows that even though Pluto's orbit has been safe so far, small changes can add up. The paths of Pluto and Neptune can eventually lose balance. Even a small push from something else might be enough to send Pluto off course. If these changes add up, it could cause trouble. Maybe even a crash. This wouldn't happen tomorrow. It would take a long time. But Tyson thinks we should still watch Pluto closely. He thinks it deserves to be studied. And Tyson isn't alone. Michio Kaku also sees the risk. He shares Tyson's love for the universe, but he also warns that planet paths are always changing. They both think we need to keep exploring space and tracking the things that shape our solar system. Pluto's story is a good example of how space is always growing. Every find leads to more questions, and every orbit has a story to tell.